Isaac Sarason is a skilled hacker formerly employed by British Telecom-Sprint. With his health failing, Isaac did the only thing he could think of. He ran. He found a haven in a working-class district of the city known as Little Russia. There Isaac took on a new name, Ishmael. Within hours of his arrival, he was embroiled in the affairs of a brutal member of Lomidze organized crime family known as Leo. Convinced by a longtime friend, Frankie, to flee from his commitments to the Lomidze family, Isaac found himself hunted by the ruthless Leo. On a rooftop, far from witnesses, Leo murdered Frankie. Only through the use of his skills as a hacker was Isaac able to drive Leo off. Now wounded, alone, and far from help, Isaac depends on the kindness of strangers. What do you do when the only way to save those you love is through the use of proxies? Colbyjack.net is proud to present Firmware Proxy by Colbytrax. 36. We rode the train through the blizzard until we passed underground. We were approaching the core, one stop at a time. To be honest, I didn't pay any attention to the stops as they passed. They were a blur of names from another life, a life I hadn't lived in a long time. The rocking of the train lulled me to sleep. Fatima woke me when we reached our destination. I squinted at the signs outside the train. We were in Park Terrace, the Star 17 stop to be exact. The stop I used to pass through every day on my way to work at BTS. It had only been a little more than a month since I had last boarded a train here, but it felt so much longer. Fatima helped me to my feet and off the train. We made it out the door the second before the train began to close its doors. The train didn't want to be here. That was obvious. Hell, I didn't want to be here. We passed through a hellish tunnel of neon and interactive adverts. The tunnel was endless. It was a technicolor hell leading to another set of stairs up to the actual Starline platform. The adverbs all presented visions of burqa-clad women holding packs of fresher agents, or sitting at fancy tables as if they were ready to eat, or riding in passenger cars. There was something wrong with the adverts. It was as if the designers had known about burqas and the women who wore them, but didn't have a clue what product would appeal to them. Maybe the products did appeal to them, only I was so disconnected from that world that I couldn't see it. Would a woman really choose a car because it was comfortable to be a passenger in it? Would a woman in a burqa really sit at a restaurant table waiting on a meal she couldn't eat without removing her burqa or exposing her face to the world? Who made this crap? After an eternity, we made it through advertising hell and onto the stairs leading up to the Star 17 platform. I knew there were 35 steps leading up to the platform. I knew I had to make it, or the City Transit Authority, CTA, would send someone to check on me. They couldn't have someone stuck in a stairwell. It might be an inconvenience for someone important, someone not in a burqa, someone who might be disturbed by the idea of the all-encompassing dress I now affected. It felt strange to be invisible. I watched a janitor of Asian descent, maybe from Xi'an Village or Little Chiba, as out of place in Park Terrace as my mode of dress, avoid looking at me as he passed me by. It was the type of person I had always avoided looking at, someone who, even in a city closing blizzard, was required to be at his post. Heaven forbid that someone's toilet not be cleaned on schedule because of a storm which shut down the entire city. After an eternity, we made it onto the island platform between the eastbound and westbound trains. Fatima helped me to a bench facing down the island and checked my vitals. "We have made it," Fatima said, "just in time, if my instruments are to be believed." "What are we waiting for?" I asked. My mouth was full of metal. Stars were my constant visual companions. I couldn't feel my fingers. "For the Star X line," Fatima answered in his best hospice voice. "When will it get here?" I asked. "When it arrives." Fatima sat next to me and held my hand. It felt good to be held. "Will it come before it's too late?" I asked. Only Allah knows the answer to that question, Fatima said softly. You're a good man, a flawed man with a good heart, but a good man nonetheless. Really? I asked. It sounded like something you'd say to a man beyond hope. Really, Fatima answered. If things were different, and my daughter's older, I would be honored to have you as my son-in-law. Now I knew he was blowing smoke up my ass. Since we probably won't be meeting again, could you answer 2 questions for me? If I know the answer, I will tell you, Fatima answered. I thought I heard a hint of fear in his voice. A train stopped in a rattle of dust and noise. The placard said star 17. That's not your train. Yours will say star X. Did Jakob make it out? I asked. He had to know. How else could he have remained so calm for so long? If it had been my flesh and blood in danger, I never would have made it out of that catfish farm. He made it out, Fatima answered. I swear I felt him relax a bit. I was sure there was a question he didn't want to answer. You're not just telling a dying man a little lie to keep him happy, I teased. No, he texted me once he was out, Fatima answered. Your burqa can receive text messages? I asked like an idiot. Of course they could. The damn thing could change color at will and interface with a computer. How hard would it be to build in a phone and message service? Fatima laughed. He didn't even bother to answer the question directly. The answer was so obvious. You were right. Jacob was the ram who stood in for you. For whom other than Ishak, Ishmael, Sarason could the ram be meant for? Though to be honest, the ram was smarter than the one found by Ibrahim. If Ibrahim's ram could climb, the story would have been different indeed. Thank you, I said. It probably was the first time in my life I actually meant it. I don't know what I did to deserve you risking everything for me. You fought from your bed with the strength of Hussein at Karbala. You couldn't win no matter how hard you fought, but you could win the moral victory. You never bowed to pressure. I only hope to live my life with half the strength you showed, Fatima said. What had I done to bring about such regard? All of my plans were ashes in my mouth. Nona was lost to me, hidden somewhere in the city. Her grandparents had their hopes raised only to lose her as well. Leo was still alive and killing anyone who got in his way. What had I done to earn such regard? Fatima squeezed my hand. We never think we are as big as the legends surrounding us. What was your other question? I swallowed hard. This wasn't easy. There was nothing to do but be blunt. Did you perform an abortion for Nona? Fatima sat motionless for a long time. Another train approached. Another star 17. Finally he spoke. No, I did not perform an abortion for Nona. His voice was that of a doctor reporting routine clinical findings. Did you go to Sergio's house on the night of Nona and my engagement party? I asked, trying to nail down the slipperiness I felt in his voice. A long silence passed between us. A CTA police officer walked past us slowly. Surely she was wondering what we were doing sitting on a bench waiting through the arrival of several different trains. Only one line stopped here, star 17. I imagined the conversation going through her head. What are they doing? Waiting for the right color of train? Some teenagers began acting rude at the other end of the platform. She lost interest in us. Finally, Fatima spoke. Sergio wanted my opinion on the status of Nona's condition and my advice. I did my job and provided my opinion. What was your opinion? I asked. Fatima slipped effortlessly into doctor speak. The conversation I had with Sergio and Nona is protected under Article 7 of the City Health Information Privacy and Accountability Act. If you told me, you'd have to kill me? I teased. If I told you, I could lose my license, Fatima answered flatly. A train pulled up out of sequence. While we had sat on the platform, trains had arrived from east and west 10 minutes apart. This train had arrived only a few minutes after the last eastbound train. "Your train is here," Fatima said. "What do I do?" I asked. Now that I was here, I found I was scared. "You get on it," Fatima answered. "Let me help you." Fatima helped me to my feet. The world spun around us as he led me toward the rogue train. The sign above the door said Star X. I smiled. Frankie had been right. There was a Star X line. It took an eternity to get on board. I was sure the train would leave without me. Fatima didn't seem worried. The train waited long enough for Fatima to lead me on board and seat me. As soon as I was seated, the 1 minute to door close chime sounded. "I must go now," Fatima said. "Keep away all evil of which I am apprehensive for my health, O most merciful," was the last thing Fatima said to me before he stepped off the Star X and onto the platform. It was only after the doors closed and Fatima passed from view that I realized my Opempo null was off. My shunts were unpowered. The fuel cell had run too hot for too long, consuming the methyl alcohol fuel at a rate I found disturbing. For the first time, in a long time, I was alone, on my own, in the city. I tasted metal. My hands were numb. My feet were numb. I felt the aphasia shark coming and knew that this time he'd either take me forever or die trying. Oh God, Allah, man, I don't want to die. How will I save Nona if I'm dead? I felt myself slide from my seat to the floor of the train. The rhythmic movement made me incapable of remaining upright. The world had become a starlit tunnel leading into the darkness of the grave. I felt sick in every cell of my being. If Riona didn't appear soon, it wouldn't matter. That which was me would be gone forever, lost among the background static of creation. I don't want to die, I cried before I lost my sight forever. A moment later, I lost my words and my place in the world. Firmware, Proxy, is the second book in the Firmware pentology. That's 5 books, if you must know. It begins moments after Firmware Hijacked ends. So if you haven't heard or read Firmware Hijacked, this would be a good time to head on over to Colbyjack.net and either download the podcast on the audio side, read the episodes on the visual side, or download the Colbyjack Sunday Reader issues 1 through 20 in your choice of either EPUB or Mobi. Firmware, Hijacked, and Proxy are both available in ebook versions from our store at shop.colbyjack.net, amazon.com, and Barnes & Noble. Just search for Colbytrax. That's Colbytrax. I'm the only one. A complete audiobook version of both Firmware, Hijacked, and Proxy is available for download through our shop as well. If you don't need any stuff, but would like to support our work, drop on by Colbyjack.net and hit the pretty little donate button conveniently located on the right-hand side of the blog roll. If you're on a smaller screen, the button will be found at the bottom of the page. Firmware Proxy is released under a Creative Commons, non-commercial, attribution, share-alike 3.0 license. Do what you want with it, just don't sell it and always tell people where it came from. If you received this from a friend and want more information about Colbyjack.net and our split personality website, just drop on over to Colbyjack.net and select either the audio or visual side. The audio side carries our podcast, while the visual side carries our writings. Whichever side catches your fancy is fine with us. We're of two minds about the whole thing anyway. If you want to get social with me, I do mostly Twitter. So if you do the tweets and want to follow me, I'm Colbytrax. Spelled the same as above, Colbytrax. We could sing that all night long. Thank you once again and have a wonderful week.